Chapter 9. Back on the row. When our flight landed in LA, Trina went back to the apartment, and I went to Sue's place. He and I sat and talked for a long time. I don't think Suge really knew exactly what to say, but he kept talking to me anyway. Every time he'd speak, it would take me back to my mother. I would just sit there and cry. Even he was fighting back tears. The support he gave after I lost my mother helped to cement our relationship. That's when Suge really took me under his wing. We talked about Shorty's disappearance and how he made off with $125,000. Once Suge found that out, he really made sure he looked out for me. He began to treat me as if I were his real son. Some of the other label mates didn't like that, and it silently stirred up some animosity between them and me. Later on that day, I went to Can-Am Studios to finish the song that Kevin Lewis and I had been working on before I left. I'll Be There was a song about loving someone, but having to let them go. This time when I sang, my pain and passion were more evident than ever. Before I'd left, I was just a kid who hadn't experienced much. But now, I was becoming a man and a father, in a world without my precious mother. I put all my emotion into that song. After my mother's passing, I became more passionate about my craft. Music was healing. I knew that my mother would have wanted me to sing as hard as I could. As I sang in the studio, I would have visions of my mother pointing to the floor or ceiling to tell me to sing high or low. I had to do it. As the weeks passed, Trina's contractions began to become persistent, and the false alarms continued. On March 4th, it was finally the real thing. The contractions were coming closer together. At about 10 p.m., Trina's water broke. I anxiously paced the floor, nervous and not sure what to do. Once I finally put her in the car, we drove from the Valley to Cedars-Sinai Hospital. It was the hospital that all the people with money went to. I thought I was ballin', so I was taking Trina to the place the stars gave birth. But while we had money and other stuff, we didn't have insurance. And Cedars-Sinai was quick to direct us to the nearest county hospital. We got back in the car and drove back to the Valley, all while Trina was still in labor. I called everyone I knew in LA to get help finding a hospital. One of my homies told me to go to a hospital in Sylmar. He assured us that we wouldn't have any problems there. By the time we got there, I had to go in to get someone to help us. When they came out and saw that she was in labor, they immediately rushed her into labor and delivery. We sat all night waiting for her to have the baby. At the break of day, the contractions were even closer together, but not close enough for her to deliver. They decided to induce her labor. While we were waiting for Trina's labor to progress, I got a call from my boy Darius telling me that he was downstairs. I told him the room number, and he came up immediately. Darius and I sat by the bed, counting the time in between the contractions. By the time the midwife came in to tell us that it was time, Trina was hollering and screaming. The pain had gotten so bad that she actually kicked the midwife from one side of the room to the other. When the midwife got off of the floor, she walked out and left Darius and me in the room with Trina. It was the craziest thing. Darius was on one side of the bed, and I was on the other. Trina was pushing, but she was having a hard time. It looked like we would have to deliver the baby ourselves. Darius was a trooper, though. He and I were there coaching Trina through. "Come on, you got this," we kept saying to her. She was pushing for a while before we saw the crown of the baby's head. We yelled for the doctor to come in and help us. He made it just in time. Within 10 minutes, the baby was born. Just as the baby began to cry, I heard the doctor say, "Congratulations! It's a girl." As soon as he said that, the tears began to roll down my face. I couldn't explain the joy I felt holding my firstborn for the first time. Nor could I explain the pain that I felt knowing that my mother was just 1 month shy of seeing my baby girl. We named our princess Ashley Dautrine Lachey Stewart. It was a combination of mine and our mother's names. After aiding in Ashley's delivery, Darius said, "Man, I was here, so I earned the right to be the godfather." I didn't have a problem with that. He had definitely proven himself. Since he was friend enough to assist in the birth of my first child, he had more than earned the title. Plus, Darius was good people. It was a good choice. 3 days later, Darius called me at the studio and asked me to meet him at my spot. Man, I got to my house and Darius jumped out of the car. His back seat was full of stuff for Ashley. When he popped the trunk, that was full too. "Come on, man, and help me take this up," he said to me. I gotta get back to the set. He was passionate about his godfather role, and this further confirmed that he was the right choice. I was excited to bring my daughter home, but not so happy with our location. Before the baby was born, I had moved Trina from the hotel to an apartment. Our place was super nice, but it was in a horrible neighborhood, and I didn't feel safe living there. Sug had no idea we were living in Van Nuys. When he found out, he quickly found another place for us to live, but first I had to go check it out to see if I liked it. Once again, I called my homie Young Buck and we went to check out the home. It was a beautiful resort-like property. I didn't care how it looked on the inside. I was ready to move in that day. I called Sug and told him that I wanted to move in immediately. Sug had the place furnished, and a few days later, the office hired a nanny. Things were getting better by the day. Chapter 10. East Coast versus West Coast. Months had gone by, and DJ Quick and I alone had recorded at least 16 songs. We shot my first video for Love, a remake of the Leroy Hudson joint. When they asked who I wanted my leading lady to be, I told them Tatiana Ali. There was no bigger actress than her at the time. I wanted to see how much power I had, and what do you know? I got Tatiana Ali, one of the stars of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Tatiana was incredible. She was sweet, modest, and sexy as hell. We were around the same age, so I quickly seized the opportunity to flirt with her during the shoot. Days after my video shoots with Tatiana Ali, Sujay called and told me that we were going to the Source Awards. We were listening to oldies on a private jet when Sug said to me, "Every song you know, you can have this." He was waving a stack of $100 bills at me. It was something he did every time we rode in a car or plane, so I was ready. I had been at home practicing every oldie I could think of. Suj didn't know that my dad had raised me and my siblings up in the Continental Lounge on 5th Avenue and Tripp in Chicago. My daddy always made sure I had quarters for the jukebox. By the time we arrived at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in NY, I had made about $4,000 playing Suj's game. At the hotel, I checked into one of the flyest rooms they had. There were on-demand options years ahead of cable. Sug had the biggest suite in the hotel. His had 4 bedrooms and a huge great room. I mean, it was huge. He ordered hundreds of dollars in food and let us order anything we wanted. By that night, my godbrother Obi had come into town. We took a quick meeting and headed to a local restaurant where we chilled with Suj, Russell Simmons, and some other big names. I ended up throwing up all over the table. It wasn't a great moment for me. They were heated, so Obi and I headed back to the hotel. I was in my room relaxing and watching movies when I ended up falling asleep on the floor. I am from the west side of Chicago. I was raised up sleeping on pallets on the floor at my grandmother's house. And now, blessed with the opportunity to sleep in a bed at one of the best hotels, I chose to fall asleep on the floor. That next afternoon, when I went to Sugi's room, the table was covered with food, and all of the seats at the table were occupied by women. Suj introduced me to the ladies, and I went around the table hugging each and every one of them. One of the women at the table was Mary J. Blige. The other women were the baby mamas of some other artists in the industry. There was one I recognized. She was Puffy's, the CEO of Bad Boy, baby mama Misa. I ended up chilling with them most of that day. We drank, smoked, and had a good time. At the end of the evening, all of the girls left except Misa. She stayed behind. It was funny how Sug was in the room with her for hours. Suj got a kick out of sleeping with other people's women. A large part of his war was sleeping with your girl. He would joke, "Puffy's bitch in my room." It was like a game to him. People toss around many theories about the origins of the East Coast versus West Coast beef, but I know that a lot of it was about women. I was in my room chilling with my bro when Suj called and asked me to come up to his room. Alone, he said. When Sug made calls like that, I never knew what to expect. I thought somebody was about to get their ass kicked, but when he opened the door, I could see Misa sitting at the foot of the bed with a sheet half wrapped around her body. Mary J. was sitting on the couch. Sug said to me, "Mary wanted me to call you back up here. She came back to see you, but she didn't want her girls to know." So there I was, chilling with this superstar, who had made a special effort to see me. We were in the living room of Suj's suite talking and drinking. When room service knocked on the door, she fell to the floor like she was fighting in Iraq. I said to her, "You good?" "It's just room service at the door." I opened the door, and room service came in and set up our food and drinks. I wondered what the fuck was wrong with her. But then I remembered that she had a man, and it had been rumored that he had physically abused her. I thought that might be the reason for her reaction, but it was still crazy to me. I had been with Death Row for a while, and I wasn't used to people being around us and scared. That just didn't happen. No one would get past Suga's people. She would be fine as long as she was with us. After a while, we were laughing and telling jokes and just having a good time. It started getting late, so we went into my room inside of Sug's suite. She went to lay down on the bed. I sat in a chair. "Why you sitting over there?" she said to me. I was nervous as hell. I was a fan of hers. Trina was crazy about her and her music. And here I was, lying in the bed with her. When she put my arms around her, the talking and laughing shit was all over. Before I knew it, she backed up against me. I was trying everything in my power for her not to feel how hard my dick was. That didn't work. She backed up into me every time I moved away. Before I knew it, we were kissing. I took her clothes off and kissed her neck. I tasted her body. It tasted better than I imagined. You haven't tasted anything until you've tasted Mary J. I got on top of her, and she wrapped her legs around me. I could tell by the moans and the screams that I was pleasing her. It didn't matter to me that I didn't have a condom on, because I wanted to make a baby with her and take it back to the hood. When we were done, we fell asleep, woke up, and did it again. I wish I had had a camera phone back then. I think I would have been on some bullshit. I'm just kidding, but I have to say, I was charged up. After that encounter, I would never be able to listen to her music in Trina's presence. I waited like a gentleman to make sure she was gone. But as soon as she left, I ran straight downstairs to my room where Obi was sleeping. I opened the door and jumped up and down on the bed like an 8-year-old kid. When Obi woke up, he started wiping his eyes. I was like, nigga, guess who I just hit? I put my hand in his face so he could smell. He pushed my hand away, but when I said whose smell it was, he wanted to smell it again. All that was on my mind was how I wished I could call and tell everybody I knew. When she left, I thought it was just going to be a one-night thing, but she left her number on the nightstand. At least I had a chance, I thought. She had my young ass flying back to NY over and over again. Now that I'm grown, I wish I could do it one more time. Later that day, Suge took us to the mall so we could get ready for the Source Awards. We were tearing the mall down. At this time, Death Row was into it hard with Bad Boy. Every artist that was involved with Death Row was there. With Snoop on the ticket to perform, Suge had 2 rows reserved for his artists and all of our people. When we arrived at the arena where the awards were being held, we mobbed in about 100 deep. When the time came for Death Row to receive the award, Suge told me to come up. I felt like I was outside of my body. I was loose as hell as I walked up the steps. Before shaking things up, Suge got on the mic and gave his thanks and shit. After that, he made that infamous statement, any artist out there that want to be an artist and want to stay a star, and don't want to have to worry about the executive producer being all in the videos, all on the record, dancing, come to Death Row. He ended that statement like the boss he was. All the Death Row artists started clapping, laughing, and standing up. I was yelling West Side while Suge was talking. I was throwing up mob on one hand and 4 on the other hand. The audience was booing us like a motherfucker. When Snoop and Dre came on stage, Snoop was yelling, "The East Coast ain't got no love for Snoop and Dre." He said that shit with so much aggression, but we were in NY. They were gonna stand by the East Coast. People in the crowd just kept booing, but the show went on. When Faith and Puffy got on stage, Puffy was on his game. He knew how to make himself look good in the media. He congratulated Snoop, Dre, and Death Row, and said that the East Coast-West Coast thing needed to stop. Later that night, Suge and Puffy ran into each other at the club. Like always, Suge was talking shit. He'd always grab the other person's shoulder when he talked. I knew him, and I knew that things were about to go south. I quickly jumped in front of Suge and pushed Puffy. I was like, get off my daddy. Suge knew I had heart and had his back. And Puff security couldn't do nothing because we had the whole VIP surrounded. After all that commotion, we ended up going downstairs to party.